So last season, the Detroit Pistons were not that good. And it wasn't because of injuries or anything like that, really. They simply just were not a talented team. But it ended up working out for them as they got the #1 pick in the first time for like 30 or 40 years. And with that pick, they selected Cade Cunningham. And overall, I would just say that Detroit has a pretty underrated future because they have quite a lot of young players who I think can be good players. And in today's video, I'm usually talking about the Pistons because on my channel right now, I'm doing a series where I talk about every single team before the season starts and talking about how good I think they will be. And Detroit ranks 28th, like on the best teams in the league on my list. And I'm going from the worst to the best. So in today's video, I'll basically be discussing the Detroit Pistons and how I think they will do this upcoming season. Before we get into the video, I ask you to drop a like on this video as it does help my channel grow. Also subscribe to my channel if you want daily NBA content. Also, if you want to help me reach my goal of 1,500 subscribers, also drop a comment on this video as I do respond to all of my comments. Play that intro. To start the video off, I'm going to be talking about how I think Detroit will be on the offensive side of the floor. And to discuss it quickly, I don't think they're going to be that amazing on offense because last year they were not that good. And to be honest, they didn't make enough moves to make moves that makes me feel like they'll be an average offensive team, and they simply just are not talented enough to be a great offensive team. Talk about how I think the players will do individually on this team. I'll talk about Cade Cunningham, who's obviously the most exciting player on the team, and he might even be the best player on the team straight out the gate. He was the #1 pick, and if I'm being honest, I expect really big things out of Cade in his rookie year because I think he's a player who's going to be the best in his draft class, and I think he's a future top 15 player at worst. He's also a bigger guard, and bigger guards tend to not struggle as much in the NBA. And I just think he's going to be in contention for the Rookie of the Year award, and I think he's going to really show out, averaging somewhere around 17 points a game and 6 assists, shooting like 44% from the field and 34% from 3. I definitely think he's going to be a really good rookie. I'm very high on him. Next, I want to talk about Killian Hayes, who just had an absolutely terrible rookie year. He ended the season off better than he started it, but overall that just was not a good rookie year for him. He was like probably one of the worst players in the NBA, especially at the beginning, but a lot of people have been claiming he's going to be a bust. I'm not ready to call him that yet just after one season. I still think he can be a solid player in today's NBA, but I do think his second year is really important, and I do have faith that he will have a good second year, and I think he'll show that he can be maybe even a really good starter in today's NBA. I think he'll average somewhere around 13 points and like 5 assists and just show that he could be a good shooter and shot creator. I'm not ready to give up on him yet. Next, I'm going to talk about Saddiq Bey, who was probably the most underrated rookie from last year's draft class. I honestly expect him to be a really solid player because last year he showed he was already like an elite shooter in the NBA, as I think he shot over 40% from 3, or he was really close, but nonetheless he was like nearly shooting 40% from 3, and he was attempting a lot of them. And he just had a multiple of big games where he scored over like 20 points, and he showed me that he's not a guy who just shoots catch and shoot threes, which is what I thought he was before, but he's a guy who can actually create his own shot, attack the rim, things like that. And he's actually a pretty solid defender, and I think he's just going to grow into being the ultimate 3-and-D guy who could do a little bit more than just shoot threes. Next on the list, we got Jeremy Grant, and last year he was like the most improved player, or he was like at least in contention for the award. I don't remember who won it, but he was like an all-star level player. If I'm being honest, I do expect his numbers to go a bit down because the team's a little bit better than it was last year, and I don't think he'll average like 20 points next year, but I still think he'll be around the same level of player, and I think he's going to average like 17 to 19 points, but I do think his efficiency will go up because the team's going to be way more talented, as I said, with the addition of Cade Cunningham. Just everyone else is improving. I think if he's like doing well and stuff, they should consider trading him at the trade deadline because I think he could warrant a lot of assets. Next, I want to talk about Isaiah Stewart, who's a really underrated rookie. He's a great energy big man. I don't know if he's going to be a star player in the future or anything like that, but I think he can be a really solid bench player, maybe even a starter. I hope he would start this season, but but they might start Kelly Olynyk or something. But nonetheless, I think he'll show some improvements to be a good defender and rebounder. And to talk about Kelly Olynyk, who they signed, he was like really hooping on Houston to end the year. I think he's a guy who they're going to trade in the future if he plays well on the team and stuff. Hamidou Diallo is actually really underrated on this team. He was one of the best bench players when he was in OKC, and I think he can somewhat match that production. But overall, I expect Detroit's players to take like steps up, and I don't really know if they have a player who's going to be a star player this season. Also, let me quickly mention Saben Lee, who had a lot of big games last year. I think he can be a solid player in the NBA. I'm kind of interested to see how he does this season. I hope like it wasn't just him playing against bad teams. I guess we'll have to see. But let me finish. I don't feel like Detroit's good enough to even think about being a playoff team, and there's nothing wrong with that because right now they're in the stage where if they made the playoffs, that's not even a good thing for them in my opinion, because right now they still need to add a few more young pieces to their core and through the draft to like become like a legit team, you know what I'm saying? And I feel like them getting the 8th seed and getting swept would just be pointless and a negative for their future. When it comes to the defensive side of the floor, I don't think Detroit will actually be that terrible because first of all, they're coached by Dwayne Casey, who's a pretty solid defensive coach. They also have a bunch of really solid defenders on their team. First off, Cade Cunningham is he's not projected to be an amazing defender coming to the NBA, but he's at least projected to be a solid one because he's literally a 6'8" point guard. His length can cause problems as long as he tries even a little bit. We also know Jeremy Grant's a really good perimeter defender. We know Killian Hayes is supposed to be a pretty solid defender, especially when it comes to defending guards. Sadiq Bey in his rookie year showed he could be a solid perimeter defender. Isaiah Stewart's pretty solid when it comes to defending the rim and stuff like that. So I actually don't think this team's going to be that bad on like defense, but I do think they'll be bad on offense. I think they'll rank somewhere around like the 20th to maybe in the 30th spot on offense, but on defense I could see them actually being like an average team or maybe a bit below average, which is definitely a right step because that shows in the future when they're ready to contend they can be a great defensive team. But to now answer the question of why the Detroit Pistons are ranked number 28 on my list, it's simply because I don't think this team is talented enough to even try and play for the play-in tournament. The major moves they made to their roster was just Kelly Olynyk and Cade, and I do think Cade will be a great player even in his rookie year, and Kelly will be a solid rotation player, but I don't think that's enough to make you go from one of the worst teams in the NBA to an average team. I also just don't think it would be smart for them to even try and win games. I don't think their offense will be good, and I don't think their defense will be like number one like the Knicks last year to where like they can make up for their lack of great offense, and I just don't think it makes sense for their future to try and make the play-in tournament or anything like that. So yeah, to conclude the video, I just want to make sure I'm not disrespecting Detroit by saying they'll be the third worst team in the NBA. It's not as big a disrespect as you think, because I had a lot of other teams I was considering for like the third worst team in the NBA. They're all kind of in like the same tier of just bad teams and stuff. I just feel like Detroit is more focused on rebuilding rather than other teams, and that's why I have them here. If you don't think like Detroit's like the third worst team, if you think they're better like then like I don't know, like what's up? Like if you think Detroit will be better than the Rockets or whatever, like whatever. But basically I'm just saying I don't think the Pistons will be this good this year, and you should honestly be pretty happy if you guys are making the playoffs because it makes no sense, but no disrespect. Anyways, guys, that's it for the video. Let me know whether or not you think the Pistons have a legit chance to make the playoffs. Drop a like on this video to help my channel grow. Subscribe to my channel if you want daily NBA content. Also, if you want to help me reach my goal of 1,500 subscribers. Also, drop a comment on this video as I do respond to all of my comments. And I'm out.